Hello, everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk Football. My name is John Halpin alongside Chris Palmer. Chris Palmer, how we doing today, my brother?
Doing all right, man. Another great week of football. The playoffs are here, and my God, what a week.
Well, we were not disappointed to any games, and when we said it was going to be a historic Super Wildcard weekend, it was on multiple levels. So, what do you say? You want to get right into it?
Let's go right in, man. This was a great week.
Okay, so we're going to start off by the first game of the playoffs, the Cincinnati Bengals beating the Las Vegas Raiders 26-19. What a game, though. I got to give Joe Burrow and Derek Carr credit. They were just sensational in the cold, but they just got it done. But Joe Burrow, man, did he just pop off your screen?
The Bengals are red hot, and again, this is coming from a Steelers fan. They're a lot of fun to watch. They really are a lot of fun to watch. They're a lot of fun to watch in the playoffs right now. But I want to flip the hat to Vegas real quick and just give them a kudos to making it to the playoffs after coming through so much adversity and off the field problems that could have deflated any franchise. You guys kept strong, went to a 10-7 record, I believe.
Yep.
And made a playoff run. Positive note for next year. But yes, Cincinnati is on fire. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon. Game changer for Cincy. Cincy looks hard to beat.
And they have a tall order for because next week they play the Tennessee Titans, and we're going to talk more about that game later on. But let's move on to the other game that happened on Saturday, and it was probably the first ever perfect game by a football team. The Buffalo Bills smacked down the New England Patriots 47-17. And Chris Palmer, what made it historic?
Well, for sure, it was known as the first ever perfect game, as you mentioned, but it was also the largest loss in Patriots franchise history. They got that smacked down.
Let that sink in for a second.
Yes. But you want to know something that's also crazy? This is the year of history when it comes to football abroad. Not only has New England lost their biggest loss in franchise history, so did Alabama.
That's true.
And it was in the championship.
Yep.
So the two systems that have worked the best in their respective sport for decades took their biggest loss when it mattered seemingly the most because they have a rookie quarterback in New England.
Yeah.
The tides have shifted, my friend.
It is great to see the powers change in the AFC, but one thing I do want to say that what made that a perfect game is that Buffalo had 7 drives and they scored 7 touchdowns.
Yes.
And
100%.
And that just has not been done in a playoff game, and it was just a really fun thing to watch.
No fumbles or turnovers or penalties on offense either.
Nope, and didn't even need to punt.
Nope.
So the Buffalo Bills are looking red hot, and we're excited to see their matchup next week. But let's move on to the games on Sunday, and starting with the 1 o'clock game, Tom Brady and the Bucs beat the Philadelphia Eagles 31-15. Tom Brady just getting it done, but at the cost of his health of his offensive line. His right tackle Tristan Wirfs got banged up that game. He was hobbling that game, and his center Ryan Jensen was again badly hurt in that game. So the Bucs we knew they'd get it done, but Philly took its slice of meat with it.
Well, yeah, that was kind of expected when it comes to Philly. My heart went to Philly. I wanted them to win, but everyone, even I, like in the stomach, you just know Brady's going to come out. But I called it that Philly was going to cause them problems. It did not mean they were going to cause them injuries, but they were going to punch them and they were going to leave them coming out bleeding. It was not going to be Tampa going to roll them and it's going to be like they're going to come away clean. Philly fights. Philly claws. Philly beats you up. You will get hurt playing Philly. And that's exactly what happened. Win or lose, Philly will take a piece.
They took their pound of flesh. That was the phrase I was trying to think of. The pound of flesh.
Yes.
And they essentially did. But for them to be 9-8 and make it to the playoffs with their first year head coach Nick Sirianni, I got to say it was a very positive season for Philly, especially when we just had no expectations for them in the offseason. But great to see them in the playoffs. I'm excited to see Jalen Hurts and the Eagles next year. But let's move on to another team in the NFC East that had to leave in the first round again, and that was the San Francisco 49ers beating the Dallas Cowboys 23-17. Now, there was a lot of controversy with that ending.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, at first, it looked like the referee kind of fucked that whole thing up. But you got to remember, you're a professional football player. You need to know at this stage in the game that the referee needs to touch the ball first. Point blank the end. And you never should have brought it to the point where you have no timeouts and you're deciding to run a quarterback draw up the middle. You had no want to run to the sidelines. That's on you. That's a mental mistake. 14 seconds left. You don't run the ball. You do not run the ball.
No, because you can't stop the clock. Now, for those of you who did not watch this game, I implore you to see it because this was a very tense game throughout. And it looked like Dallas might have been able to make a comeback, but on their final drive, they had no timeouts, and they were on their 40. Dak Prescott, with 14 seconds left, ran for a quarterback draw, brought him to the 25-yard line, and they could not spike the ball in time.
Game over.
What happened was he gave it to his center, but he should have given it to the referee because the center cannot be the one responsible for spotting the ball.
Right.
That is the referee's responsibility. And this is just one of those games that it kind of reminds us as football fans where it's like the refs are playing the game too. And we kind of, as much as we don't always agree with them, we have to respect that. They are participants within the game. So I think for Dallas, it was just all the small little mistakes finally caught up to them, but hey, they made it to the playoffs, but that's it.
Everyone knows that Dallas is notorious for getting to one playoff game and losing.
Yeah, the Dallas just can't win playoff games, but
cannot get over that wild card wall.
They're definitely going to make a big dramatic move in the offseason, but we're not going to be worried about that too much.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there.
Jerry Jones is just he likes to have a spectacle.
He's a schemer. He's a schemer.
He's a showman.
Yeah, he likes to put on a show.
He likes to put on a show. But with that, Dallas is no longer putting on any more shows, and unfortunately, Ben Roethlisberger will no longer be in the league as well. The Steelers lost to the Kansas City Chiefs 42-21. Tell me, Chris Palmer, how... I tried to warn you. I tried to warn you, Fred.
I get it.
But reflect on Ben Roethlisberger for a minute.
So, listen, I've been a Pittsburgh Steelers fan for just about 18, 19 years. So, I watched his entire career, and to go 18 seasons without a loss, hats off. You will never see that. You won't see it in majority of teams ever. Without a losing season. Second year in, he got a Super Bowl. After that, I think it was 3 years later, we wound up in the Super Bowl again and won against Arizona.
Yep.
And from there, it was just dominating the division, forming one of the strongest rivalries in NFL history, with one of the best defense to touch the field. Yeah, hats off. 52 fourth quarter comebacks. He is second all time in fourth quarter comebacks.
Only behind Tom Brady.
He is fifth all time in passing yards. Pretty sure he's fifth all time in touchdowns.
Yeah, he passed Phillip Rivers.
Yes.
Yep.
Hats off, man. See you in Canton. But in regards to this game, we didn't belong here.
No.
We didn't belong here, and it showed. Them being in, I can't not root for them. They're my team. But we had very little chance playing in Arrowhead. And you want to talk about putting on a show, Kansas City just put on a show against us. They were nigh unstoppable. They did whatever they wanted. They pushed us around. They bullied us. We made a bunch of mistakes on offense and defense. We just didn't stand a chance.
Yeah, you know what it was? Again, hats off to Ben. Immaculate career. And honestly, it's going to be weird seeing the Steelers without Ben Roethlisberger. So, as a Ravens fan, I'm going to have to adjust to that too because...
It's going to be an adjustment period.
But But I'm excited to see where Mike Tomlin wants to lead this team going forward in the future.
Well, yes.
I want to see his vision of the Steelers in a couple years' time, and see how the Steelers look in there. Obviously, the defense is great. T.J. Watt is definitely, without a doubt, going to be Defensive Player of the Year.
If he's not, I called bullshit on the entire voting process of all of the after-season awards.
He has to be. And honestly, for a while in the beginning of this game, it looked tight. It looked very tight, and it wasn't until they had that that wildcat formation, and T.J. Watt just came in, picked up the fumble, and said, "I'm taking this to the house." Got the touchdown, but the Chiefs just kind of from there they woke up, and then they just put on a show, and they just kept scoring. So the Chiefs will be playing the Bills in this divisional round, and my God, that is an exciting game to look forward to.
That game is one to talk about, which we will be talking about later.
But before we talk about that, we have one last game that we need to discuss, and that was the Los Angeles Rams coming away and beating the Arizona Cardinals in LA for the first ever Monday night primetime game. Playoff game. Monday night playoff game.
Yes.
38-11. Matt Stafford and that defense too. That defense showed up.
Yes. Hats off to Matt Stafford for getting his first ever playoff win in 13 seasons.
Yes.
First ever playoff win. First ever playoff win in a new stadium. And first ever win in a playoff Monday night game.
Yep.
So,
Historic.
hats off Matt Stafford. You made history 3 times in one game.
There you go.
But the disappointment in Arizona, man. They plummeted to earth and fell flat on their face, and they came in gasping for breath into this game.
Now, let me ask you real quick. In your opinion, what went wrong for the Cardinals?
I feel like they just, like a lot of teams, they just came out too fast. They came out too fast. The idea of a longer season really didn't play into how they played meticulously against different teams throughout the regular season. They didn't pace themselves. They came out hot out of the gate, and we watched every team that came hot out of the gate play that way. We're talking about the Chargers, talking about the Raiders, talking about Denver, talking about Arizona. All 4 of those teams notably came out of the gate on fire. Mm-hmm. We were talking about them just about every week, that they are on fire, they're magical, something is going on there. And then after that, they all took a steady decline. The only one that secured a playoff spot wound up being Buffalo.
And also the Patriots, they were hot in the mid part of the season, but
again, that's the mid part of the season, not early on.
Getting back to the Cardinals though, I think from myself just watching the Cardinals is that obviously that division is very tough to play against.
For sure.
But again, a lot of players could not stay healthy for the better part of the season. Mm-hmm. Kyler didn't play a full season. D-Hop was out for the season, and a lot of the vets just couldn't really keep up. Let's think about it. Let's be honest here. There are a lot of, as much as there's a lot of young players on offense, there's a lot of veterans on defense, and so I believe that as we've been saying throughout the entire season, it's a game of attrition.
Yes.
And the more veterans you have playing on your team, they're going to feel how long that season is.
Right.
So, with that being said, I would like to. It was nice to see Cliff Kingsbury and the Cardinals make it to the playoffs because they have been steadily getting better every year. So I'm interested to see if next year they take another step forward.
Well, to go off your point when it comes to their aging defense, if they were to get maybe 1 or 2 pieces in that defense from the draft that have, they have that engine, they can pick up like a Micah Parsons, they can pick up a TJ Watt, put a piece on that defense, I think they'd be pretty nasty. But before we move on, I just want to relay the condolences for the injury to Budda Baker. That's an injury no one wants to see. He wound up getting carted off in a stretcher, spent the night in the hospital. He's going through tests. He's up and awake and aware. He has feeling, so it was not a neck injury. They're trying to rule out a head injury. So prayers out to him and his family. Hope all the best and hope a very speedy recovery.
100%. We wish him the well, and we wish all the injured players that suffered an injury this year that they all recover well, because their health and well-being is number one. But with that being said, we have some games to discuss for this upcoming divisional round. So
moving on to the divisional weekend.
We're still in playoff football, so I just wanted this to be clear. There are 8 teams left. There are 4 games this weekend, 2 on 2 days, but only one is going to be taking it all. And so our first game for this divisional round matchup is, I think, the game that you were most excited for.
Yeah.
The Cincinnati Bengals coming into Tennessee to play the Titans. So take it away, my friend.
The thing is, again, I told you off air, this is not the game I'm excited for the reason that you think. I'm not that excited to see Tennessee. Yes, I'm excited to see Derrick Henry. I am a Derrick Henry fan. The Titans need more. He is a crutch to them. They played stagnant and well enough to win. Teams played worse for them to be where they are. I said that about week 7, week 8. That's the way it feels. It's better teams are playing worse, and they're staying the same. They played well a couple of games throughout the regular season. It hurts me to say it on air. I'm excited to see Cincinnati play. They're exciting. They're fun to watch. In one season, they changed 15 years of a whole negative mentality about the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah.
And that's for a lot of people, not just me included. I'm saying that outright. I know a bunch of people that have since hated the Bengals that can now say, I am respecting what they are doing. And they are red hot going into Tennessee. This game is going to be fun to watch, and I feel there's no offensive passing pressure answer for what is coming out of Cincinnati. Joe Burrow is going to score at whim against that Tennessee defense. And if Derrick Henry, if he plays a lot, hopefully he stays healthy enough to actually have a game. But if they resorted to a one-way against that defense, I like that defense, Tennessee's going to have a lot of trouble.
Yeah. You know, I will say this. One thing we did forget to mention was that the Bengals, in beating the Raiders, this was their first playoff win in 31 years.
So they're coming off of a lot of emotions coming into this game.
I saw this as a fact. I know last week you brought up the text messaging, but the last time the Bengals won, the Soviet Union still existed.
That's ugly.
That's depressing.
That is really depressing.
That is depressing.
Ugly. That is ugly.
But with that being said, you know what? You're right. Objectively, the Bengals are a very fascinating team because they were able to be a team that was just kind of getting it together last year with under Joe Burrow's rookie year, but this year they drafted Jamar Chase, and they were able to just be so explosive on offense that they
awoken something in Joe Mixon by doing that.
Joe Mixon was like, "Wait, we're scoring now," and then they just kept going. They just kept going right to the end zone, and so the Bengals are one of those teams where, with Joe Burrow, kind of just being such a, I don't want to say gunslinger because he's very responsible with the ball, but like he has such a great arm that he just throws lasers to his wide receivers, and then they just catch the ball and they get so much yards after the catch that it's just so hard to keep up with them.
It's almost effortless for them.
And so it's going to be tough for Tennessee because you're not going to be able to stop Joe Burrow and this Cincinnati offense. You can only slow them down so much. They're going to score. They're going to score probably whenever the defense lacks up. They're going to exploit that. But again, it's for Tennessee. You have to. You and I were saying this before. I think for the Titans, they should look to score first. And I know that sounds easier said than done, but if they win the coin toss, elect to receive the ball. Get your offense going. Get it warmed up. You had the bye week. Everyone should be healthy, but you gotta rev up the engine. And like as we've been saying with the Titans earlier on with Derrick Henry, like he's one of those players, he's one of those running backs where you have to rev him up. You got to commit to the run, even if you're only getting like say 1 to 2 yard runs at a time. You just got to commit to it. And them and their offense in general needs to get revved up in general. Like you got to find, even if it's not working in the beginning, you still have to look for AJ Brown. You still have to look for your second running back. You have to look for Foreman in the check down. You got to just take what's there. Be patient, because Tennessee is a very patient offense, but they should look to kind of, again, rev up the engines first.
Yeah, and the thing is, Cincy ain't like that. They just aren't that team to let you rev up. They're going to score and score and score and score. And if you don't cold start against Cincy, you're going to end up in a lot of trouble. And I don't know that Tennessee has that switch where they're like, okay, it's game on from the start. Like there's no time to warm up against Cincinnati.
Yeah, Cincinnati's one of those offense where they can just kind of score at will. Now, against the Raiders, though, I was kind of expecting that. I was kind of expecting that game to be more so one-sided, but the Raiders kept hanging around. They kept hanging around, and they still had a chance to make it in the end to tie it. So, as much as we liked that Cincinnati offense, their defense has a lot to be desired. And I think that their defense is just not quite there. They just need a few more pieces on that defense, and then they could be as probably on the same level with like the Bills or something like that with these new reconstructed teams. But for the Titans, they have really tough time getting a pass rush. And so that's going to be their problem, is because if you're not going to make Joe Burrow uncomfortable, he's just going to find his guys. And the Titans' best players are their secondary players. Kevin Byard is their best defensive player.
Unbelievable.
He's a phenomenal safety. But again, as a safety, you're not responsible for making the quarterback uncomfortable. You could come in on blitzes, but you're mostly going to be relying on coverage. And I think the Cincinnati offense has really developed into something similar with like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, where you give the more time you give the quarterbacks, the deadlier they are.
Right.
And Joe Burrow, like, you give him enough time, he's going to find his guys. He's going to find Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon. He's going to find all these guys.
Right.
So it's just a matter of when is your defense going to lax, and how fast can you stop the bleeding?
I also just want to give a shout out to that play from last week from Joe Burrow. He, on the run, running backside, back foot, cross the body, on a perfect bullet pass to Jamar Chase into the end zone.
I don't think it was Jamar. I think it was Higgins.
It was Higgins?
I think so.
Okay.
I could be wrong.
It was one or the other, but laser into the back of the end zone. Freak of nature play. Unbelievable play.
It's just one of those elite plays that you don't see. Like, not any quarterback can make that play.
No.
And
not just any quarterback.
You have to be very special and to make that play. And it looks like Joe Burrow is just really special, objectively. Subjectively, fuck the Bengals, but objectively, they are playing a very well football. And I think for the Titans, they're a team that honestly I don't think they want to play against the Bengals.
I don't think any team in the AFC right now wants to play the Bengals. Like, they're that team right now where it's like, I don't want to play them right now.
Yeah, because even last year when they weren't as good, the Bengals upset the Titans.
Right.
And even this year, the Bengals beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead.
Right.
Wait, was it in Arrowhead?
Pretty sure.
Was it in
I think
Cincy?
it was in Cincy, but pretty sure they beat them up all game. They bullied them most of the game.
They didn't bully, but it was close. Like, it was a shootout.
Close game, but I'm talking like on the field. Like, it was just unbelievably physical.
It was physical. Yeah, it was a very physical matchup between the two of them. And honestly, if you can go toe-to-toe against the Chiefs and come away victorious...
Which I'm pretty sure at the time when they did that was when KC turned around their defense and, like, started turning heads again. So it wasn't the flattened Kansas City team that we saw in the beginning. It was championship Kansas City. So the idea of a Cincinnati-Kansas City rematch for the Super Bowl chance, it's just there, and it doesn't sound too bad.
It could happen, and I wouldn't mind seeing Joe Burrow in the playoffs, but I don't want the Bengals to go any further.
You see, again,
that's me. I know.
It hurts to see them this far in. But watching them unbiasedly, just as a football fan, it's hard not to enjoy what you're seeing from out of them.
I personally love the connection between Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase because, and as painful as it was for them to just get so many big plays on the Ravens, the 2 games this year, we got swept by the Bengals. But man, the first game when we played in Baltimore, Jamar Chase just
tears it up.
You make one mistake on defense, and it's just he's gone, and they just have that connection where it's a quarterback to receiver connection that you see like can be formed through years of time, like Brady to Gronk, Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, and in year 1, Burrow and Chase.
Year 5, because they played in college.
Year 1 on Cincy.
Yes, but you got to understand.
I know, yeah, they have that.
They're coming in with that chemistry already. They're already locked in.
Exactly.
Which is why I'll say it on air. Cincy should double dip and pick up Thaddeus Moss out of LSU, the tight end, because that's another piece that Joe Burrow has that connection with. Championship tight end.
Hey, it would be
scary.
Be very scary.
Because now you have Tyler Boyd and Thaddeus Moss as your tight ends.
Oh, then you have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins.
And Joe Mixon.
And don't forget Joe Mixon coming out the backfield,
right.
too.
That's a scary offense.
It's a very scary offense. But I want to just say this. What are your expectations? I want to ask you real quick. What are your expectations for Derrick Henry this coming game?
I really hope that they don't just throw all the weight of the season on him, in one game. He's just coming back from a really bad foot injury. So I hope that they kind of level the playing field with him. Yeah, they take the pressure off of Tannehill when it comes to having to pass most of the time. Because if they do that, Cincy, as much as you don't buy into them, they're more of they're a unit defense. We spoke about that earlier in the season. Like, when teams are bad and they're bad together, they can shine in different situations. You saw last week, Cincy showed up a couple of times in the red zone and at the line of the goal line together. So, if they rely on Ryan Tannehill to overpass the ball, they're going to swarm and they're going to wind up with interceptions and turnovers. They're going to cause mayhem for Tannehill. On the flip side, if they put too much on Derrick Henry on the first game, that team is very physical. So there is just that chance that they cause mayhem for him as well. It's a very tall order to slow down Derrick Henry, but if you catch him early before he revs up, he'll never get started, especially in the cold. He doesn't like the cold.
No, they don't like the cold too much, but I do agree with you. I think honestly the word for Tennessee is balance. They need to find that balance of you have, like, obviously your whole playbook is derived from running the ball and giving it to Derrick Henry, but at the same time it's like you want to understand that, like, again, he can't have the whole season on him. He can't be the one to win you this game. And I think, honestly, for Tennessee, it's got to come down to Ryan Tannehill has to step up and really perform. Because if they win this game, then the AFC title game is in Tennessee.
That would be insane.
Regardless. So, like, they would stay home for another week, and then whoever would come from KC and Buffalo would just meet them in Tennessee. So, and I think you want that. And this is going, like, probably the healthiest the Titans can be. But let's see, do they come out rusty? And that's the question, is do the Titans come out rusty? And if so, does that cost them the game? Because the Bengals are just looking to score.
And they're red hot right now, coming off of full-blown emotion. This is going to be one of the more exciting games on the week, I feel.
This is going to be such an exciting game to watch.
Yes.
And that's only one game on Saturday. We have another game on Saturday.
Yep.
And that is the San Francisco 49ers and the Green Bay Packers. Whew. So, can I start with this
Go
one
ahead,
real quick?
because you've been riding high on Aaron Rodgers all year.
I mean, Rodgers has been playing great. But I don't want to talk about Rodgers right now. I want to just say I like the way the 49ers look as a team. And as I felt that the game kind of got away from them a little bit in the second half against Dallas. But in the first half, they just had their way. They were just running the Cowboys knew that they were going to run the ball, but they just couldn't stop them. Elijah Mitchell was great. Brandon Ayuk, another great. Deebo Samuel is probably one of the most versatile wide receivers and it's in the league, and it's really tough to stop the 49ers because they just have. There's so many different players who are so versatile. And I think this is going to be a really a big challenge for that Green Bay defense because one thing that they have against them is that they're really not good against teams that run the ball. You remember Christmas Day when the Packers beat the Browns?
Yeah.
They got a lead because of Baker's turnovers. But the Browns stayed in that game because they were able to run the ball with Nick Chubb. And obviously Nick Chubb is one of the best running backs in the league. Yeah,
that's hard to compare.
But the 49ers are a different running team. They're the same way as the Browns, where like they are a run-oriented team, but they just do it a different way.
Mm-hmm.
They don't lean on their one running back, Elijah Mitchell. They have a lot of creative different plays. You give it to Deebo Samuel with an end around, and he'll be able to get you some good yards. And then from there, their play action game is very great with Jimmy Garoppolo at the helm. He's not good when he has to leave the pocket, but when the pocket is clean, he's just as good as anyone.
Right.
And I think for the Packers, they better not sleep on the 49ers.
Oh, God,
because
no.
if they sleep on them, they can probably get trounced. Now, remember, they played earlier this year. They played in San Francisco. And they took the lead late, and Rodgers, with 37 seconds, came back and brought him in field goal range.
I remember
and won that. So the 49ers, in the past couple years, they play them tough. Like Kyle Shanahan and Matt LaFleur, that's a really good head coach chess match between the two of them. It's just going to be very hard for that 49ers defense because remember when a couple years ago, 2 years ago, when that 49ers defense was dominant, they smacked Aaron Rodgers and the Packers twice, once in the regular season, once in the playoffs. But now their defense is just not that good, and Fred Warner actually got injured late in that game against Dallas, so their best defensive player may not be playing, and if he is playing, he's not going to be 100%. So I think, honestly, this is going to be one of those games where it's going to be the last team that has the ball. And the 49ers are going to stay in this game. They're going to play the Packers very tough, but I feel that the Packers will ultimately come out on top.
Yeah, this game is interesting because, like you said, the coaching matchup is unbelievable. Yes, that San Francisco team is not what they were defensively, that they were a couple of years back. So that really is going to come as a pickup to the coach. Kyle Shanahan is going to have to really make something work.
Yeah.
Or else he's going to have problems. But I think it goes deeper than the team with the ball last. It's going to come down to how many free yards do you give up. It's going to come down to the penalties. We were talking about it off air. The teams in the playoffs aren't the teams that go offsides. So, and you have two very well-rounded quarterbacks with Jimmy Garoppolo and Aaron Rodgers playing against each other that know how to throw a hard count, and they know how to confuse defenses. So it's going to come down to full-blown discipline on both sides of the ball. They're going into Green Bay, and it's going to be loud in Wisconsin.
And cold.
And I don't think San Francisco has seen cold like that.
No, not this year. Not this year, no.
Especially because it's at 8:20. They haven't seen cold like that. So I feel like that discipline to the cold is going to make a real big impact on both sides of the ball. So it might go deeper than who has the ball last. If you give up ugly penalties at the wrong time for either of these teams, they're going to capitalize with either a field goal or a touchdown, and that's really no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But these are kind of mirror images of each other. Think of a younger Aaron Rodgers, a chippy little quarterback who had the receiving, and a sick little running back. had a good offensive line. That's Jimmy Garoppolo in San Francisco right now. This is kind of like Aaron Rodgers looking back in time. So that's what I feel with this team. I think it could be Aaron Rodgers duplicate from back in time. So Aaron Rodgers might take this one a little bit more personally.
Well, I know he does not want to lose to the 49ers because the Packers right now, they have grand expectations to not only make the Super Bowl, but to also win it. And I feel that this is as good of a Packer team as we're going to see.
Oh, for sure.
The Packers defense is one of the top in the league. I believe they're in the half percentile of defenses. I don't think they're top 10 yet. They might be on the cusp. I think they have the 11th or 12th defense.
Right.
But it's far better than San Francisco's, and that offense is very versatile for the Packers because
for sure.
Even though they have Devontae Adams and they lean on Devontae Adams, and I personally think Aaron Rodgers leans on Devontae a little too much. That's just me personally.
I agree.
But they have some really good players in the backfield. They have Lazard as their second receiver, who's great on one-on-one coverage.
Oh, he's unbelievable.
If Aaron Rodgers likes that matchup with Lazard on the cornerback, they're going to take it. And honestly, the cornerbacks are probably the weakest points for the 49ers. They have a great linebacking core and a good front seven, but their secondary is just not as cleaned up as it needs to be. And I think Rodgers could expose that with one-on-one coverage. And even if he doesn't, you still have Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon coming out the backfield, just going to be pounding the rock right at the line of scrimmage. And so it's going to make it easier for Rodgers to just move the ball down the field. I kind of expect Rodgers to kind of run to set up the pass. And I think you feed Aaron Jones a little bit in the first half, and then you just kind of open up for that play action game right in the second half.
I could see that happening, but I would like to see Aaron Rodgers and Jimmy G have kind of like a gun show.
I wouldn't mind.
I want to see that happen. So I agree with starting with the run to set up the pass, but I wouldn't give it a full half. I would give it a quarter. And if you don't succeed with the run game, if you do, the pass game will be opened up. But I mean, you hit it hard in the first quarter, run game, 3 down, run plays, 1 pass, or something like that. So by the second quarter, both of your teams are as warm as they're going to be because it's going to be cold. So, and understand that it's going to hurt when you get hit. So once you have jumped over that, the butterfly aspect of playing in one of the coldest games that we're ever going to see, of course, because it's nighttime in Green Bay, start letting the ball loose and let your stars go to work. There's a lot of star power in the receiving cores on both teams. And there's a lot to offer coming from these quarterbacks. I want to see MVP Aaron Rodgers come out again. Like you said, this is the best Green Bay team I think we're going to see. And they're arguably a Super Bowl team because that defense is just as good as when they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
This is a very exciting game, and I have to agree with you. I think Green Bay is going to come out on top. But I think San Francisco is going to make this a much more tedious and painful game for Green Bay. They're not going to, just like Philly, they're not going to come away without their piece.
Yep.
So they're going to do something that's going to leave Green Bay limping into the NFC Championship.
They're going to be taking their pound of flesh with them. But I will say this, though. Not only is this the best Green Bay team that we've probably seen, but at this point in time, it should be the healthiest Green Bay team that we're going to be seeing this year because Aaron Rodgers, as you know, has been playing injured for most of this the back end of the season.
And it's just getting progressively worse.
So you give him a week off, let him rest his foot, but you're also getting back David Bakhtiari, your left tackle, and Jair Alexander, your best cornerback as well. So that,
which we've all been anticipating for, you and I both.
Yeah, honestly, he's one of my favorite players to watch on defense, and it's going to be so great to have him back on the field. And he's probably just going to be right on Deebo Samuel.
Or you see, I like the idea of him and Deebo Samuel, but I really like him better on Brandon Ayuk I feel like his zone reading, like in his route reading, would be better suited for Brandon Ayuk, because Brandon Ayuk has the footwork where he can take those ins and outs and leave cornerbacks in the dust. Deebo Samuel's fast, so you throw him on a fly route on a one-on-one, it's disgusting, or a quick slant route or a post route. But the ins and outs that are going to hurt San Francisco defense are going to be from inside the numbers for 10 to 15 yards. Because you give Brandon Ayuk 10 to 15 yards with no one in front of him, that is a disgusting amount of yards. That's going to turn a 7-8 yard pass to a 12-yard pass to a 17-yard pass to a 27-yard run, and then they're going to open up and they're going to give it to Deebo Samuel 60 yards down the field on one play, because now you're going to come up and you're going to have there's nothing you can do. Sorry.
You're right though, because San Fran, they're just a very versatile team where it's like, again, they match up well to this package.
It's like a mirror team.
Like these teams match up very well to each other, and there's not going to be a bad game this weekend. But man, this is another one of those games. Keep your eye on. Mm-hmm. This is going to be great football to watch. But let's move on to Sunday's games with the early game, which I'm looking at these games and I'm like, I don't know which one's better. You have the LA Rams going to Tampa at 3 p.m. on Sunday.
This game. I love this game.
Well, why do you like this game?
Matt Stafford, man. Come on, man. Hats off to Matt Stafford. You and I have been saying for years, this man is an insane quarterback and just needs a team. He had Megatron. He showed a glimpse. He goes, everyone turned their head. What is that? And they gave it to Megatron. Not taking anything away from him. He's a Hall of Fame receiver. Matt Stafford's pretty unbelievable, dude. And like we said, Tampa's not healthy. They're hurt, and that defense is scary in LA. I believe I saw it on ESPN today. They gave LA Rams a 45% chance to upset Tampa.
Yeah, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, even though I think the Rams are underdogs going into this game,
yeah,
they're not by much.
Not by a lot.
Not by a lot. I think the line is
like
either
half a point or something.
It's either 2 or 3 points, I think. So
it went up.
It's small. It's a very small line.
Very small caliber.
But man, this game is great. And now, again, this Rams team, I think, was Sean McVay constructed this team, I think, in order to beat the Bucs on how they are. Now, I didn't realize last week that Cam Akers, the running back, came back last week. Now, for those of you who do not know, Cam Akers was obviously their number one running back, but he got injured on an Achilles
tendon.
Yeah, on his Achilles tendon in the preseason. So he was out this entire season. And so they were scrambling to get a running back. They picked up Sonny Michel in free agency. And now you have a really good running threat of Cam Akers and Sonny Michel.
Yeah.
And Cooper Kupp on the outside, along with OBJ and Van Jefferson and Tyler Higbee as your tight end, and a great offensive line. And the defense, honestly, it has awoken at the perfect time.
Let's not forget who OBJ is replacing right now.
Robert Woods.
Let's not forget about him.
Yep.
So once Robert Woods comes back,
no, he's out for the year.
What about next year?
Next year.
Right. You know, we all thought that Cam Akers was going to be out till next year too, but here he is. So, like you and I were talking about it off air, I want to see more of Cam Akers and Sonny Michel. I like that teams are now conforming to the idea of we need the premise of two. We need two running backs that can do different things. One running back can't do it all. Mm-hmm. They will get hurt, and you need someone to bring in.
Yep.
You know, roster depth is becoming more of an importance, and it's fun to watch because you're watching a lot of talent on the field at that point.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there's so much talent in the league. So they're conforming to we're going to have 7 receivers, and we're going to use every single one of them depending on the package, team depending. You know, you need to have, at this point, 2 tight ends, at least. You need to have 2 running backs. You know, and you need to have a receiver that can throw the ball.
For some teams, not all teams do.
Not all teams, but this is like what teams are confiding to. Is like we need playmakers. We don't need secured positions anymore. You know, that's, again, the way a lot of sports are starting to drift, where instead of it being like a dead soul locked position, it's, can you make plays?
Yeah, it's like positionless positions.
Right,
Yeah.
positionless positions. You know, like, pretty sure Deebo Samuel gets behind center and can throw the ball too. Pretty sure he can throw the ball.
He can.
Someone on San Francisco I know they use as a wildcat quarterback, and he can throw the ball pretty well.
Mm.
You know, perfect example is Taysom Hill.
Yeah.
On the Saints. You know, he was a slot receiver, came down to play quarterback. So I like the idea of that, especially in the Rams on their team. But talking about Green Bay, San Francisco still. Oh, where are we?
No, we're talking the Rams.
Sorry, lost my place. This is going to be a very fun game to watch.
It really is, and honestly, I think, as much as I am really I really like the Rams in this matchup. Brady, you know, he definitely has a sour taste in his mouth from losing to the Rams in Week 3.
Yeah, he's bitter.
He lost to the Rams beat the Bucs earlier in the year in September, and that was a really great game to watch. I believe they beat him 34-24. So you know Brady's going to be watching film. He's definitely going to be watching his film as we speak. He's doing it.
Oh, for sure.
And
he's preparing
and just
on a different level.
Looking for that Rams defense, because that front seven is going to be hellacious at getting him. So he's got to watch out for not only Aaron Donald, Von Miller, but also Leonard Floyd. Mm-hmm. And then in coverage, it's like you got to make sure that you stay away from Jalen Ramsey. But their safeties are not as deep in LA. So if Brady's able to get over the top, he'll be able to exploit that from the Rams. In fact, actually, last week the Rams actually had to get Eric Weddle from retirement to bring him on back to play. Obviously, Kyler Murray wasn't able to exploit that, but Brady, we know Brady. He's going to
find a way.
He's going to find the holes in that defense as tight as they're going to be, and this defense is going to give Brady all they got. But what's the key to beating Tom Brady? You make him uncomfortable. You put pressure on him. You make it tough at the line of scrimmage, and the Rams have the personnel to do that. Now, and it even benefits them in their favor that the Buccaneers' offensive line is hurt now.
Oh my God!
Their right tackle, Tristan Wirfs, he was limping off the field last week against Philly. Ryan Jensen, their center, again, another player that is and these are young offensive linemen. The offensive linemen for the Bucs are all under the age of 30.
Wow.
So these are young guys who have been by Brady's side the whole year, and it just seems now that
they're breaking down.
They're becoming more vulnerable, and it's not the perfect time for that, because for Tom Brady at least, because now you're playing a hellacious team that has the personnel to beat you. Remember, the Rams not only beat the Bucs this past season, but also last year as well in Tampa with Jared Goff.
Oh, you're right. That did happen.
That was a Monday night game, and Sean McVay beat the Bucs pretty convincingly. The score ended 27-24, but the Rams had the lead for pretty much the entirety of the game.
I remember that. Vaguely, I remember that.
And so Brady was in the same predicament where he just had to come back, but ultimately he couldn't. So Sean McVay knows how to scheme for Brady, but Brady, he's one of those quarterbacks where it's really tough to beat him on the second time around. Mm-hmm. And as much as his offensive line is going to be depleted, he's going to adapt his game. Be sure to watch a lot of quick passes for Brady. He is going to be getting the ball out of his hands in less than a second or two. If he has it longer for 2 seconds, to him, that's too long. Because he knows that if he counts to 3, he's going to have Aaron Donald breathing right down his neck. So I would expect a lot of quick passes for the Bucs in this game, a lot of short throws, and once the defense comes up to the line of scrimmage to defend that, he can then exploit it over the top against the safeties.
You see, in a perfect world, that's how it works. But going against that Rams defense, like you said, it's hellacious, but it's hellacious throughout. Yeah, their safeties have some issues, but you know those cornerbacks are so disciplined. They're gonna know that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
So they're gonna take a setback. They're gonna take a seat, and they're gonna read Tom Brady. Like this is a very well. I like the coaching matchup here. Honestly, like this is another chess match. This is
between Bruce Arians and Sean McVay.
Yeah, I love this coaching matchup because everything that Tampa has to offer, LA is going to have an answer for. And whether it be a batted ball, an open field hit like that knocks a ball loose, it can just happen coming from that LA defense. So I'm excited for this game as well. But again, to your point, they're hurt, Tampa. Tampa's hurt. And losing your center, and I believe it was their left guard, right?
Right tackle.
The right tackle. Issues there, because that's where Von Miller is.
Yep.
He's a left end. So coming right across the right tackle spot, he's going to cause a bunch of issues for your backup. And then the center, you have Aaron Donald over center. Come on.
Well, Aaron Donald's
he's
on the other end, but you have Leonard Floyd coming up.
You have Leonard Floyd, and when they run 40s, he's also a D tackle.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Aaron Donald comes in at D tackle too. It's not pretty. So that's going to be a whole mess of issues, especially because that's Tom Brady's Achilles heel. He never once enjoyed pressure.
No. Well, no quarterback does, but all the signature. I mean, granted, we've watched enough games of Tom Brady that we can reflect on not only just games but also Super Bowls where he's been in, and the Super Bowls specifically against the Giants. They were able to get pressure with their front four without sacrificing anyone in the backfield, and their front four was able to get home and really put
him away,
like suppress that offense very well. So, and that's been a consistent theme throughout these past couple years, where it's like if you don't have a good pass rush, you're not going to beat Tom Brady.
Right. This game, I'm excited for this game.
This game is one of the best ones to look for this weekend. But honestly, you know what's the best game that I'm looking forward to?
Yeah, this game upcoming, the 6:30 game, Buffalo and Kansas City in Arrowhead. Take it away.
My God, this is probably my favorite game to watch this weekend. This is going to be two teams that, you know how Buffalo scored 7 touchdowns in 7 drives? Well, the Chiefs scored 6 touchdowns consecutively. So these teams are going. Honestly, might be a shootout. This might be the shootout that we've been looking for of Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. Because if you were able to watch both games, they just made it look so easy against their opponents. And you know that the Steelers' defense is really good. And the Patriots' defense was really good, and yet they were just able to just put points up on the scoreboard like that. And before you know it, it was 35-7 in the third quarter against the Steelers, and it's just wasn't it 21-7 just a couple minutes ago? And I believe there was a stat where the Chiefs scored five of their touchdowns within a 10-minute time frame.
That's ugly. And it's like, again, you know the Steelers' defense is a lot better than that, but it's like, what is going on that offense that is clicking so well?
And Buffalo is the same way.
Yeah.
You know Bill Belichick, he loves his schemes. He loves his defensive personnel. And they were just able to just score at ease. These two teams are made in the same mold, where they're a gunslinging, hard-throwing team with spectacular depth of talent, and the only difference is Buffalo has the defense to match.
I agree.
The Chiefs' defense, they were not as good in the beginning half, but they were able to pick it up in the second half. But their defense is maybe at best middle of the road. Mm-hmm. It's not a great defense, but honestly, this is both teams match up to each other very well. And on both sides of the ball, whether Buffalo's defense against that Kansas City offense or that Buffalo offense against that Kansas City defense, it's going to be an electric performance. And honestly, as of this point in time, this is probably Josh Allen's biggest game in his career. Because if he wins this game and beats Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs
at home
in Arrowhead, that is a statement win. That's a
big
huge win.
statement.
And honestly, for me personally, I believe that whoever wins this game is going to be representing the AFC in the Super Bowl.
I can see that. For this game, for me, I am very excited for this game. It's a very exciting game. But honestly, to me, it has the same feel similar to Cincinnati and Tennessee. Now, let me explain. Kansas City is another one of those teams that kind of showed last week they need a kick in the pants to get started. You know, it took T.J. Watt scoring a touchdown for them to turn it on. Buffalo is like Cincinnati in the respect where they're not going to let you warm up. If you keep slow, they're going to step on you and roll past you. So, depending on the Kansas City, and we all know Kansas City can do the one-play touchdowns. They're famous for it. They won a Super Bowl doing it. If they come out ready to answer, it will be one of the most electric football games we have ever watched, period.
That's what I expect to see.
But if Kansas City comes out and they try to be the time managers that they learned how to be offensively, where they can do the trickle plays and get a touchdown, it may not be enough because Josh Allen and that Buffalo offense can score any point at any time. They look unbeatable going into this game. They really look unbeatable, and I completely agree with you. The winner of this game, it's all hands on deck. We're going to the Super Bowl. But depending on who wins that Cincinnati-Tennessee game is a matter of how they're going to enter that Super Bowl. But we'll get to that.
We'll
cross that bridge when we get there.
One game at a time. But man, this game is it's going to be absolutely electric. Now, remember, in the AFC title game, this was the AFC title game last year. Buffalo went to Arrowhead to play the Chiefs. And the Buffalo scored 9 points in the beginning. They got a 9-point lead, and then the Chiefs went on a 35-6 run,
something like that.
And
ugly.
And then they were able to just kind of silence the Bills. Now remember, the Bills and Chiefs, they also played again this year in Arrowhead as well. So this is the third time the Bills are coming to Arrowhead within this calendar. Actually, not this calendar year.
2 years.
Yeah. So this game and then 2 last year.
Well, I think technically it would be, because wouldn't this be last year's AFC Championship because of the longer season?
Well, I was going to say calendar year, but it's not technically calendar year.
Well, seasonal year. Wouldn't it technically be the AFC Championship tonight?
Or that game on Sunday?
Right.
I mean, kind of feels like that, doesn't it?
But I'm talking like since they extended the season, wouldn't it be the AFC Championship? Because we're technically a game behind.
That weekend?
Right. Wouldn't it be the AFC Championship?
Yeah, actually. Yeah, it would be. Because this time last year, yeah, you're right.
It would be the AFC Championship.
This would be the weekend of championship weekend.
Right.
And
so the winner of these games would technically be in the Super Bowl next if it was last year.
If it was last year, yeah.
Right.
But
think about that.
What?
The idea of it being, hypothetically, it was last season, Cincinnati is in the AFC Championship.
It'd be crazy. Well, but there's not 4 teams per conference in the title games,
right.
So it's only 2. But with that being said, the Bills, I'm going to get back to my original point. The Bills went to Arrowhead and beat the Chiefs the second go-around in this regular season. They beat them 38-20, I believe.
Right.
And this was when the Chiefs were struggling on offense. They were turning the ball over. Their defense just could not match. And they lost this game, and then the following week, the Chiefs also lost to Tennessee as well. So this, for the Chiefs, they better not sleep on the Bills. This is not the same Bills team as last year. They are better this year.
Much better.
They are much better, not just on offense, but on defense specifically. Like, they have the number one scoring defense in the league, and they do not let other teams score points on them.
No.
But the Chiefs, they will score points. It's just a matter of how fast and how electric, and it's honestly, I could see a shootout. I could see a game like 38 to 35 or something like that.
42-38 or something like that. It's going to be nuts.
It could be very well possible. I think,
if
honestly,
it turns out that way, it'll be nuts.
Honestly, I think what's a big factor in this game is the turnovers. Who gives the less turnovers in this game? And even if it's throughout the entire game, each one is perfect, but at the very end, it's bound to happen. And in one of these playoff games, there's going to be one late turnover.
And it's going to be huge.
And it's going to be seismic.
Yeah. It's going to send waves throughout the league.
So it's going to be something to watch for. But again, I love this coaching matchup. I just love that these teams are just so well matched for each other that it feels like this game was all but inevitable.
I feel like that is the common theme from what we've actually been talking about. A lot of the better games from the regular season into the postseason is the coaching matchups. The coaching this year is bar none. You've seen coaches take skeleton teams to positive records. You've seen teams that have no business being in the playoffs end up in the playoffs.
Look at Philadelphia.
Look at Vegas. And that's without a true head coach. And going through everything else off the field. Look at Pittsburgh. We had no business being in the wild card round. Mike Tomlin's one of the greatest coaches to ever touch the field. The coaching this year has been top-notch. So going into the playoffs, I really expect nothing less than coaching matchups that are just fireworks.
Man, I'm just so excited for this game in particular because this is, out of all the games look great, and I can't wait to watch them. But this game in particular looks to be something that it looks like it's going to be one of those games that we're going to be talking about for years to come. Just this matchup is just so great.
This could wind up being one of those historically good games just to watch.
Yeah. And I'm excited for this weekend. Mm-hmm. Are you excited for this weekend, Chris
I am
Palmer?
excited for this weekend, but I got to ask you, are you ready to call some score, call some wins?
Let's make some picks.
All right, let's go.
Let's make some picks.
So we're going to go back over to Saturday's games, and we're going to talk about Cincinnati versus Tennessee. Who do you got?
I'm going to go Tennessee.
Okay.
For a couple reasons. I can't, in my heart of hearts, pick the Bengals. I just can't. But I also think that Tennessee, honestly, they have a really good shot at this game. I just don't buy that Bengals defense, and I don't buy that Tennessee defense. But Tennessee, when they're playing their best game, their best A game offensively, it's so hard to stop. Because when you're able to run the ball effectively, it minimizes the other team's possessions. So with that said, I'm going to take the Titans. I don't expect much from Derrick Henry, but I expect Tennessee to find that balance.
I respect it, but I'm going to do it. I'm
son of a bitch.
I'm going Cincinnati to win this game. They are coming off a very hot hand, full blown of emotion, and they score quick and they score fast and they score a lot of points. You know, their one issue is kind of putting teams away, and Tennessee is not the team to keep alive. You know, if you're going to sense blood, you got to put your foot to the throat and you got to end it. You know, they scored just enough points to win. They score fast, but Tennessee is the team that's just going to keep beating you up, and they're going to keep trickling down, and they're going to come back if you allow that to happen. But I'm going to go Cincinnati.
I respect it, but fuck the Bengals.
Yes. So again, subjectively, it hurts me to say that as a Steelers fan. But unbiased as a football fan, it's hard not to see them as hard to beat, as one of the hardest teams to beat left in the playoffs.
They deserve to be where they're at right now.
100%. And they're going to, as much as it hurts, it feels like they're going to be here for a while.
We shall see.
Yeah, that's a hard pill to swallow, I know. Moving on to the 8:20 game. San Francisco in Green Bay. It is going to be blistering cold. Pretty sure the forecast is for 10 degrees in Green Bay that night. Without the wind chill.
I think this is going to be a close game, but I expect the Packers to ultimately come out on top. And especially for a West Coast team, it's hard to play in Green Bay. It really is. But San Fran does match up very well to Green Bay. I expect a close game, but I think the Packers will ultimately win.
You see, I have to agree with you, and for one reason and one reason only. Aaron Rodgers is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Well, yeah.
And Jimmy G has yet to really prove that he's even a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's great.
He's not.
But I see exactly.
He's not.
So
but he doesn't need to be that.
No, he doesn't need to be in this aspect of being. He's a great quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
He's just on the next level.
He's on a different platform. So that reason alone is why it's going to be a great game. But like we saw earlier in the season with Green Bay, it doesn't matter how much time you need. It was 35 seconds he brought it down the field to score.
Yep. 37 seconds. And it's just two passes, boom, boom, Devontae.
Done. Game over. So, at the end of the day, if Aaron Rodgers has to bring out the Hall of Fame, he will, and he'll just hurt you for it. And you can't be mad at it as an opposing team, but sorry, San Francisco. Green Bay is taking this one. Going to the Sunday games, the 3 p.m. game, L.A. and Tampa. In Tampa.
Who do you got?
I'm going to show some love to L.A., man.
Okay.
I think L.A. is going to move forward. Again, they're coming off of a lot of emotions. Matt Stafford's having, I'm going to call it a career year because it's a playoff run. You know, he's having an outstanding year. He has an outstanding team. Tampa's very hurt, and L.A. knows how to capitalize. So, I'm going to go L.A. on this one. It's almost hard not to go for L.A. against Tampa, as hurt as they are.
This is, again, they match up so well, and it's so hard to beat Brady on the second go-around. But Sean McVay is a very capable coach. He can do it even without Matt Stafford. He did it with Jared Goff last year.
Right.
And this team is just they're clicking at the right time. And that Bucs defense is vulnerable to... It's going to stop the run. It's going to stop Cam Akers and Sonny Michel because it is the number one team against the run. But they are horrible against passing quarterbacks. We've been saying it all year. This Bucs defense can't... quarterbacks can throw on them easily, no problem. That secondary is the weakest part of that defense. That front seven, ferocious. But that secondary is not that good. I mean, granted, LA, like we were talking about before, their safeties are their weak spot, but their cornerbacks are strong.
Right.
They're probably not gonna let the wide receivers of the Bucs to be able to get that far back.
They're not going to be able to get alone.
Yeah.
Let alone bring out a 1v1 situation.
So I'm going to take LA on this one.
Nice.
I just not only would I like to see them win, but I think those injuries to the Bucs offensive line was huge. It really opened the door for the Rams to really make it a tough day for Brady because they're going to be able to get the pressure and sustain it. Again, if I was LA, I would expect Brady to be throwing a lot of quick passes. Expect that a lot. And again, Tampa was, the team that attempted the most pass attempts in the entire league. They don't like to run the ball that much, and their running backs Leonard Fournette and Rojo are hurt. They may or may not be in that game, so you know that it's just going to be all on Brady's shoulders. And I think LA is going to come away victorious.
I agree. It's going to be that's another game that you can sense fireworks. But we're going to move on to your favorite game and probably the entire league's favorite game going into this week of playoffs. Buffalo and Kansas City in Arrowhead.
Who do you got?
This is your game. Who do you got?
I'm taking KC. Yes.
Wow.
I think that Kansas City, even though Buffalo looks great, they look phenomenal. I think Kansas City's just that much better because they've been there, done that, and I think again, just like what I said with Brady, it's hard to beat a team the second time around. It's hard. It's going to be very hard for the Bills to beat the Chiefs the second time around because they are not the same team that they were when they played in October. The Chiefs got better on defense, and they match up very well. Now, Buffalo obviously has the better defense, but I think it'll be just enough to just eke out a win against Buffalo. So I'm going to take the Chiefs.
Oh, wow. You surprised me on that one.
Really?
You did.
Really?
Yeah, you really did. Actually, you really surprised me on that one. To me, this one's hard. I was thinking about it this whole episode. I've been thinking about it for days as to who I think was going to win this game, and I've been tossing and thinking about it. It's so hard to choose because it's going to come down to Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, who can make a play at the right time. And either of them is capable at any given point. But being from New York, I'm going to have to go with Buffalo.
Okay.
It's the last New York team in the entire bracket.
Okay.
When all hands are down, you vote for New York when you're in New York.
Maybe you do.
I know you don't. But in a lot of sports, when it comes to the state you're in, and you're watching them do well, you want them to keep going. I want to see Buffalo keep going. I agree. This is a very exciting game.
And honestly, whoever wins this game is probably going to the Super Bowl. Because honestly, the Buffalo or the Chiefs, I think both of those teams are just on another level than Tennessee and Cincinnati.
Yeah, but Cincinnati's not far.
They're not far. They're
really not far off.
But they're not where they need to be.
Not yet. They still need a couple of pieces. But same thing with Tennessee. Not yet. Not yet. All right, guys. There you have it. It is divisional weekend. There are games for the week. If you disagree, agree with us, let us know in the comments. Give a like, subscribe. It should be fun. You got 4 games this week. Not a lot of time left. Here we go.
Oh, let's get ready.
Yeah, man.